And a nice warm welcome to our parents who have joined us. It looks like our staff, our faculty are going to outnumber our parents this afternoon, but we really thank you for your time this afternoon. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Sean Hutchinson. I'm the principal of the school, and I'll be introducing a couple of Year 9 advisors shortly, along with our subject teachers this afternoon. So we are going to get straight into the presentation. It's a few slides that we will talk through, and then we will have an opportunity at the end to answer any questions that you may have. If you do have questions throughout the presentation, can you please put your question in the chat and we'll get to it at the end. So I'll now share my screen and we'll get right into it. So this presentation is specifically for Year 9 parents. We have been presenting over the last 2 afternoons webinars for our Year 7 and Year 8 parents. So it's very similar information, but we just want to highlight some points to support you and to support your children throughout the year. Just got to get my... Okay, so to start with, can you all see that presentation? You're all okay with that? Yes, some of you are nodding, great. So a couple of things that we're going to cover this afternoon. We'll talk a little bit about the advisor role. We'll also cover off a little bit of information about the virtual school experience, and then we'll talk about communication tools and course outlines and assessment schedules. So as we highlighted at the beginning of the school year to all of our students through a virtual assembly on the first day, we want to highlight the importance and value of the role of advisors in our school. Our advisors are subject teachers also, and they work with a small group of students at each year level to support them throughout the year. Not only overseeing their academic progress, but also their social, emotional, psychological progress as they work through the academic programs. So the advisors are really important people, not only for students, but also for parents. As parents, if you have questions or concerns about your son or daughter's learning, your first point of call will be to communicate with your son or daughter's advisor. So that's done generally through email. Obviously, when we do have school up and running, face-to-face meetings are also possible. But the advisor meets with your son or daughter regularly throughout the week and communicates with other subject teachers and provides that well-being support, that pastoral support that is needed, particularly through the middle years, and at Year 9, critically important as the students continue to develop and grow as young people. So our 2 Year 9 advisors are with us this afternoon, Olivia Owen and Dylan Swills, and both Olivia and Dylan have been working with your sons and daughters throughout the year and have been reaching out to you, I am sure, over the last 5 weeks and supporting the students as they adjust to not only a new school year, but also virtual schooling. We also have a number of subject teachers at Year 9, all subject specialists. The Year 9 program requires students to take English, mathematics, science, global perspectives, design, technology, music, art and physical education, and of course languages in the national curriculum. So our subject teachers are people that can also reach out to you from time to time, depending on what's happening with your son or daughter. But for the most part, you'll have a lot of contact with your son or daughter's advisor, and opportunities throughout the year to interact and communicate with the subject teachers. This academic year saw a change in our daily structure, and it's something that our students and our faculty are adjusting to. The major changes really are shorter snack and lunch breaks, and that has presented some challenges for some students. We have made some adjustments recently to allow students to eat or have a snack and drink through lessons, because students were not having enough time to eat food during the lunch break. So we've made that adjustment. And the other major adjustment is our advisory session at the end of the day. And that's a really important session for our advisors to touch base, check in with our students, check on how they're progressing, answer any questions that they may have, and so on. So when we come back to face-to-face teaching and learning, we may make some adjustments to our daily structure, but it's just important for parents to understand the structure for the day for their son or daughter at home. So I'm going to invite Joanne Dickinson to talk a little bit about the virtual school experience now, and just highlight a few key points for parents to be aware of. Joanne.
Thank you, Sean. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. So I think if we're looking about the social aspect of coming to school, we need to remember that if the children are at home, they need to also perceive that this is school as well. So they need to, or we need to make sure the kids are out of bed and they're dressed and they've had their breakfast, as they would do if they were doing face-to-face learning. So ready to start the day, ready to learn at 8 o'clock, already sitting in their learning space. And in this learning space, we would presume that they would have their books and stationery all arranged nicely. They've got their laptop, their handphone is in another room. There is no access to any kind of gaming or anything in the distance. So it means that the student is actually feels as though they're sitting at a desk in school. We have noticed since we came back a few weeks ago that given the situation in Jakarta, and I'm sure it's happening worldwide, if you take an internet provider such as First Media, where they would have had a couple of million possibly clients before COVID, they've probably tripled that now. Unfortunately, they haven't tripled the bandwidth that they've got going out into houses around Indonesia and Jakarta, obviously. And so some of the internet connections are a little bit slow. So if you could be working from home as well. And even if you're just checking emails or looking at a PowerPoint presentation that a colleague may have sent you, or you're checking Instagram or any other kind of application, it won't take that much bandwidth. But when you've got your child sitting there with their laptop on, they've got their cameras on all the time, they've got their audio going, we're showing videos, we're showing PowerPoints, and they're saying, Miss, it's lagging, Miss, it's lagging. Now, so what I would ask you to do, have a look at your kid's computer. Are they really working? Even sit in on one of, my classes or somebody's class and see how it's actually working for them. Another thing is to make sure they are using a laptop. So I know most of them are in year 9, so I don't think that's much of an issue, but certainly no iPads, no tablets. It needs to be a laptop. Also, if you can encourage your kids to be checking their emails. I know as professionals, many of us are checking our emails constantly throughout their day, but they haven't got quite into the habit. They're checking their Snapchat, they're checking their Discord, they're checking their Instagram, all social stuff, but academically, they should get into the habit of checking their emails. I'm not saying that we email the kids every day, but there will be emails coming through. And also that Teams is their go-to place, which is a learning platform, it's a collaborative space, that they should be checking every single one of their subject teams to make sure that they know what's going on. If things have changed, they're up to date. And of course, ManageBack, which is where all the homework and the summative assessment and all the reporting information is there, which is accessible for you, but it's also accessible for the kids. And we need to make sure that they're checking that as well. The last point is particularly about how we use those platforms, because even though we may teach formal letter writing in year 7, 8 and 9, when it comes to responding to messages on Teams, they don't seem to get the fact that it is a learning space and it has to be formal. So if a teacher sends a message, so Mr. Dillon may want to speak to one of his advisory group and sends a message, he will start with, "Hi X, could you come and see me at lunchtime?" And the response needs to be, "Hello, Mr. Dillon, or thank you for your message." So we're getting messages back that are quite, let's say, not very polite, and it's not their fault. It's just that they're not used to it yet. So encourage your kids to be speaking and communicating with the teachers and each other in a very polite and almost professional manner. I think
Great.
That's all.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Joanne.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to. Sorry, Mr. Hutchinson. I forgot to say for the stationery packs. Would you mention that later?
Go for it. Yes, you can mention it now if you like.
Oh, okay, great. So we do have stationery packs, and we've had lots of already being picked up for the year 9 students. But I did notice a couple of days ago that there are still a few downstairs. So if your child has not picked up their stationery pack, which has all the novel, it's got all the stationery, their art kit, it's a fantastic pack and they really need it. So if you haven't had time to go to get somebody to come and pick that up, please could you arrange it in the next couple of days? Thank you.
Really good point there, Joanne. We are actually emailing directly to those who have not collected their packs today. So they have a chance tomorrow to collect their packs. So we'll move on. So a couple of things that we wanted to highlight to parents this afternoon, the communication tools that we use in the school and across the school. So ManageBack is something that I'll draw attention to this afternoon, Office 365, emailing of course, and our website. So parents at this point in time should have received an email invitation from ManageBack. If you haven't received an email invitation, please reach out to your son or daughter's advisor and we can support you with that. But basically parents gain access to ManageBack through the email invitation and then they simply follow a few steps from there. One of the useful things about ManageBack is that there is an app for Android or iOS, and so a really useful tool for parents who are busy. Simply following that invitation email and using your email address to log in. One point to remember with ManageBack, please use the email address that you have provided the school at the time of admissions so that we can connect your account with your son or daughter's account. In ManageBack, there are a number of ways in which you can access information to communicate to advisors and subject teachers. Going into ManageBack, into your child's profile, you can click on a subject, and then subject teacher name and email address will appear. Likewise with the advisor name and email when you first log in and see your son or daughter's profile. So one easy way of getting to teacher emails and advisor emails is through ManageBack. Another way is to remember our very simple pattern of first name dot last name at acgedu.com. A full list of staff is in our parent and student handbook, which is on our website under handbooks. You can go to our website and go online and see our parent and student handbook, and then you'll see a full list of staff, positions, as well as email addresses. So if you're wanting to get in contact with a staff member at school, two easy ways to get their email address through ManageBack, or go online to our website and look at our list of staff there. So just coming back to the apps that are quite common in our school, the Microsoft Teams platform is a collaborative platform for students. So as parents, you don't have direct access to the teams that your son or daughter has. And so it's really important to understand that as a parent, you will go to ManageBack if you're looking for information related to your son or daughter's learning. The Microsoft Office Teams environment, where they have a team per subject that they take, is a platform for them to video conference, to chat with their teacher, to share or receive files and information about the work that they're learning. So the Teams platform is a powerful collaborative tool for the student and learning. Likewise with OneDrive. OneDrive is an area where students can store all of their work. They don't need to set up their own Google Drive to do that. And so this is really important for students to keep a track of all of the work that they are producing throughout the year. And finally, email, although probably a little bit old-fashioned for our students, we still require students to use email to communicate to teachers. They can chat through Teams, but as Joanne pointed out, formal requests and emails to teachers is appropriate and something that we want to see from our Year 9 students. So just going back into ManageBack, there are a couple of things that we want to highlight in ManageBack. First of all, course outlines. So if you go into ManageBack and you go into the subject that the student's taking, you'll click on the Files tab, and you will be able to access the course outline in PDF format. And that allows you to learn a little bit more about the subject, the topics and units that are covered, and the assessment structure that's taking place in that particular subject. So really useful for parents to have a read through the course outlines that we have available for all subjects. Similarly, we have assessment schedules, and assessment schedules are accessed in the same way that course outlines are accessed via ManageBack, going into the Files tab and then downloading the PDF document. So there are two key documents that we would like to highlight to you this afternoon. And as we're talking about assessment, we have some slides specifically related to assessment. So I would like to now invite Mr. Richard Todd, our Vice Principal, to talk us through the slides on assessment.
Thank you very much, Sean. Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to be with you. So the reason we're talking about assessment, and basically two different forms of assessment, is because this year we're having a school-wide focus on communication, and in particular, we're interested in getting better at communicating between teacher and student, and teacher and home, and obviously between student and home as well. And one of the ways that we can do that is with what's called formative assessment. So we're going to talk about two types of assessment for a few minutes here so that you understand the difference and you know what to speak with your children about. You look at that nice little Venn diagram in front of you there, what is known, what is not known. So if we look on the left, what is known tells you what the child can do, the content knowledge that they've got already. Teachers do not design units of study that keep a child in that circle where they know everything and they can do everything. What we're trying to do is we're trying to help children make progress with skills, with processes, with content. And by the same token, what we don't do is we don't put in front of students things that they have no chance of doing at all, because they'd get despondent, they'd lose any kind of motivation. So what we try and do is we try and coach and scaffold whatever it is, whether it's content or whether it's skills, so that the child can be moving in a forward direction. So that section in the middle is called the zone of proximal development. It's a theory devised by a wonderful guy called Lev Vygotsky. So you want to coach children to always try to do something just a little bit beyond their grasp, so that with some help they can move forward. So we're going to talk a little bit about the assessment and the feedback that helps them do that. Next slide, please.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so formative assessment and feedback. So when a child is learning some content or a skill or a process, they get feedback from the teacher that is designed to improve that performance or that knowledge or the understanding. So it has to be specific, has to be connected. What's connected? Has to be connected to whatever it is that they're studying in terms of the unit or the topic at the time. It's given to students either immediately or very quickly after the task has been done, so that they can make amendments to their practice or their work. The feedback can come in several forms: verbal, written, demonstration, or a video form, and it's always unique to that student. If we could move on to the next slide, please.
Yep.
Okay, so given that it is all of those things, what is it not? It's not graded, it's not high stakes. So comments are not grades. Grades are just numbers, and unless they're backed up by comments, we don't really understand what they mean in a formative feedback environment. So they're not general, standalone, random, they're not hidden. Everything is transparent with formative feedback. When a child gets some formative feedback about what it is they're trying to do, they understand where they're succeeding, maybe where they need to put in some more work and practice. So formative assessment's at the very heart of the teaching and learning process. The next slide, please, Mr. Hutchinson. Okay, so summative assessment's very different. Summative means at the end or at the pinnacle. So usually at the end of a unit or at the end of a program, for example, the IGCSE is a 2-year program, and at the end there are some summative examinations. So in school we do have summative assessments. They usually happen in the form of mid-year exams or a summative assessment task, and a summative grade is given at the end, and these things are high stakes. They do appear as judgments, and if we move on to the next slide, Mr. Hutchinson, we can see what they don't do as well. So this is summative assessments cannot be changed, and they're not useful in a formative way. They're a full stop on the process. So you've been getting all of this lovely formative feedback. It's helping you to understand how you are learning and how to improve. And a summative assessment is an evaluation of your product or your final performance at the end. So it's summative assessment is assessment of learning at the end. Thank you. Next slide. So formative assessment really is at the heart of what we're doing in schools. We're helping students understand how they can get better, how they can develop their knowledge and their skills. Summative assessment is a judgment that's right at the end, and even though we do them, and of course they are useful in that regard, they tell you where you're at the end, it's really what exam boards are all about, the IBO, the IGCSE. So you can see the connection between the two, but without qualitative formative assessment and feedback, these high achieving kids who are getting A stars at IGCSE, they couldn't get there without the proper feedback, the timely feedback, the informative feedback from the teachers along the way. And this is the last slide, Mr. Hutchinson. One of the best ways that kids can learn about how they're getting on is by sharing with each other. Just had a situation the other day where in my extended essay class, a year 13 student showed me a plan where they'd mapped out their extended essay. And I shared it 2 days later with the year 12 so that they could see from another student within the school a really good idea for mapping out a complex and highly researched piece of work. So they're learning from each other all of the time, and formative assessment from their peers is one of the most useful things that they can get from the school environment. And that's me done, I think, Mr. Hutchinson.
Thank you very much, Richard, for that. So this part of the afternoon may be quite brief given the number of attendees that we have this afternoon, but if you do have a question and you would like to type your question into the chat, that would be great. While you're doing that, I will stop sharing my screen and just move to a full screen if I can. And so we do have a recording of this session this afternoon. We also will make the presentation available to all of the parents who were not able to attend this afternoon's session. But pretty much as predicted, parents, we tend to see a lot of interest from parents at year 7, and that interest tends to die down a little bit at year 8, and by the time they get to year 9, perhaps not so much interest in attending webinars and parent sessions like this, but really it's important for us to provide an opportunity for all of our parents to attend information sessions throughout the year. If you do have questions or you have questions after this session, reach out to Olivia and also Dylan as advisors of Year 9, and I'm sure that they will be able to support you throughout the year. So given that there are no questions this afternoon, we are going to wind it up. It's amazing that I'm actually running a session that is going to be a lot shorter than we originally said, because I consistently get people looking at me like, we're going to run an hour session. Yep, we are. Well, we've halved that. So thank you very much, faculty, for attending. Thank you very much, parents, for attending. We hope you are safe. We hope you are well. And we look forward to chatting with you, perhaps in a more intimate environment, one-to-one, a little later down the track. Thanks very much. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.